Right, let's talk about the Executor, because I know people understand how cracked he is now, but I don't think people understand just how cracked and how much of a substantial change From Software actually made for this Nightfarer. First of all, we're going to talk about his critical hit ratio on the Cursed Sword, the Suncatcher, because a lot of people are throwing around the number 1.3, which is completely wrong. 1.3 is the same as, I believe, the Duchess Dagger. The new critical attack ratio for his Cursed Sword, the Suncatcher, is actually 1.5, which makes this the single biggest critical hit ratio in the game. Now, a close second is the Misericord with 1.4 critical hit modifier, and then after that you get some other daggers that have like a 1.3 in the Duchess Dagger, and then you get like the Executioner's Great Axe, which has like a 1.15. So this makes the Suncatcher insane, like the biggest critical hit modifier in the game by quite a big margin, and it also has a very good attack ratio, so pair them together, you are going to have insane crits. And when I mean insane, I'm talking insane, like close to 10k damage crits, as you can see here with this clip. Now, of course, that's in solo. I would never recommend playing a critical hit build in trios, because most of the time you're not going to be able to get the crit unless the team recognise you are running a crit build, and then yeah, you can make use of it. But even then, the chances of getting a critical hit are a lot lower than they are in single player, but you can still make it work. Now, as for how to run a critical hit build, essentially you can use all the base improved critical hits you get on your relics. Each of the base ones will stack with themselves, so you could have up to 6 of them, and then you can also use the +1. Now, this will only stack with the +1s, it won't stack with itself, so if you have 2 improved critical hit +1s, they won't work together. As for how that would look, this is the relics I would run if I was running a critical hit build. Now, to create the perfect critical hit build, you would obviously need some insane RNG, but if you did get all the weapon effects you need and all the passives you needed, your damage could look something like this.
That's quite big.
Now we're going to finish up on the critical hit stuff, because it is insane. If you're someone who plays solo and plays the Executor, critical hit builds, it's probably the best build for solo in the game, because Executor probably is the best solo Nightfarer. And the reason why it makes it so good is the Cursed Sword, the Suncatcher, has had a boost all around. The guard boost has been improved, the stagger damage has been improved on successful deflections, the stamina that you take has been improved, so when you're taking an attack you now lose less stamina, and also when you used to run out of stamina at the end of the Suncatcher, you would get guard broken. They have now prevented this, so you can no longer get guard broken. So, critical hits aside, let's talk about the actual Suncatcher's skill, the Cursed Sword. They made a pretty substantial change to one of the personal relics for Executor, and that is the relic that was the character skill boost attack, but it also drains HP. So they renamed this the character skill boost attack but lowers damage negation. So essentially, when you're in the character skill Cursed Sword stance, if you attack someone with your Cursed Sword, it lowers your damage negation. Now, the amount that they have improved the Cursed Sword's damage is substantial. It's actually 35%. And when you're attacking with the sword, it lowers your damage negation by 40%. Obviously, this clears as soon as you exit the Suncatcher stance, the deflecting stance. Now, when you enter the buff state, so when you've done enough successive deflects, and you have the Suncatcher and it exits the dark stance, and it's now in the light stance, the light version. Previously, the improved skill attack didn't buff this skill. Now, the Balancer relics buff it, all the improved skill attacks you get when on an expedition buff it, and also the improved melee attack buffs it. So, pairing that with the Balancer relics, because the Executor is already probably the best character to use for skill builds, mostly because of things like Rivers of Blood. Even the Halo Scythe works really well on him. I think he's maybe the top joint person to use the Halo Scythe on. Now, with his Cursed Sword, you obviously have essentially 2 kinds of builds if you're running the Balancer builds with him, because you can use the sword, you can use the Suncatcher skill, you can use the skill of any weapons that you're picking up in the expedition. The potential for Executor and skill builds is insane. And again, as always, if you get the perfect setup, perfect relics, perfect weapon passives for your run, your damage could look something like this.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Now, gamers, you may think we are finished there, because we've talked about the critical hit modifier that's been improved, we've talked about his curse sword, guard boost, stamina and all that stuff that's been improved. We've talked about the attack damage that's been improved from his relic. But there was one more really big change that just makes the Executor honestly an S tier character now, easily top 4, may even be top 3. You probably guessed it, we're talking about the buff that the transformation, the aspect of the Crucible received. Now again, there's been some miscommunication around, I've seen it a few times, that his defenses have been improved in the beast form. This is not true, his defenses are exactly the same. What has been improved is each level the Executor rises, so level 1 to 14, he gets a damage boost in the Crucible form. Now the numbers for this are a little bit weird, but essentially at level 1 he gets a damage boost of 133%, and at level 14 he gets a damage boost of 355%. Now I've tried to test where this damage boost is from. I assume it's just from the previous version of the aspects of the Crucible Beast before the patch update, but I couldn't actually figure out where it was from. But essentially at level 1 he now is 133% stronger than he was before, and at level 14 he is 355% stronger than he was before. There's no improvement for level 15 for whatever reason that is, or at least there's no improvement in the data files, but at level 14 he reaches his maximum potential as 355% damage increase. Now, prior to the patch, using the Executor's ultimate ability, it basically meant GG goodnight, especially if he was in depth 3, 4 and 5. As soon as you transform, trying to revive someone, if the boss targeted you, it was GG, goodnight, game over. In the latest patch, essentially, when you're using his claw attack, you are prevented from immediate death. So, when hitting them with the big ultimate ability, you can only go to 1 HP. You cannot be killed in that state, which honestly I think is amazing. Basically, you can pop it to get a free full heal, do a couple of R1s to revive your buddies, and then just finish them with the L2, which means you won't die. You may go down to 1 HP, but doing that, couple of R1s and then the L2, you are going to revive 3 bars fairly easy, and you're also going to be mostly safe whilst you're doing it. So yeah, the Executor received an insane buff, and I do now think he is at minimum top 4 Nightfarer in the game. He may even be top 3. That's still undecided. Obviously, Duchess, Ino, Walder, they all have their insanely good pros. Some of them have cons, same as the Executor. He has insane pros, insane DPS, but he also has some cons. I am going to do a Nightfarer tier list. It's actually in the works. It's something that I need to finish. Just the last couple of updates really threw my head around with the Nightfarers. Revenant, she, went from bottom tier to being now easily S tier. People can disagree with that. Scholar, for me, he's always bottom tier, but, a lot of people argue that he's top tier. So, it is something I'm going to do. It is something that's in the works, along with a few other videos I am currently working on. Now, gamers, there is not really much else to talk about. There were a few other changes for the Executor, but none really that I think are really worth talking about. It was just things like his character skill restoring HP was buffed. There is obviously the passive buffs that they had, like the HP recovery upon successful guarding. That was buffed, so that obviously works really well with the Executor. Why wouldn't you want to use that if you've got it? And then you get the draw enemy attention while guarding, which again, you don't really want to be using that for the Executor. That's more of a Guardian, specific thing. But obviously, if you do want to use that on the Executor, that has been buffed and that will work better than it did before. So gamers, let me know your thoughts on the Executor. Let me know if you do think he is now S tier and at least, top 4 Nightfarer in the game. As always, stay safe. Catch you on the next one. Big love. Peace.